It'll sure give people a whole new outlook on what it's like when you don't wear a safety belt.
I think they'll get the picture.
You could learn a lot from a dummy.
CNN Headline News. I'm Lynne Russell. Hurricane Andrew, already acknowledged as America's most expensive natural disaster, has generated another milestone, the biggest federal aid package Congress ever has considered. The $7.6 billion proposal offered today by President Bush could grow because the governor of Florida doesn't think it's enough. Skip Loescher reports this pre-election session of Congress promises to be lively, if not productive.
As the Congress returns for what is expected to be a month-long frenzy of election year legislating, another item has been added to its platter, and it may be the only one on which Republicans and Democrats agree.
We'll go to general quarters on other issues, not this one. We're together on this one.
This one will provide $7.6 billion to help rebuild homes, farms, and businesses in hurricane-ravaged South Florida and Louisiana. And even though that money will be raised in part by deficit spending, Republicans aren't balking.
There are situations that arise that are supersede deficit spending, and I think that this is one of those cases.
Other issues will find the White House and Congress embroiled in partisan battles. Democrats will almost certainly send the president another family and medical leave bill, and as he did with an earlier version, Mr. Bush will almost certainly veto it. Another veto is expected if Democrats pass a bill upholding a woman's right to have an abortion. But experts predict that compromises will be reached to push through urban aid and to push through incentives to aid the ailing economy.
Disaster relief, economic growth, and the plight of working families. That will be the agenda for the closing session of the 102nd Congress.
But what type of legislation will actually be passed?
Any major piece of legislation in which both parties disagree will not become law, either through a presidential veto or through infighting within the Congress itself. So we'll have minimum legislation that will perhaps pass, legislation that relates to money, legislation that relates to non-controversial policy. But we'll hear a lot of rhetoric, too.
It is a crucial time for both parties. The compromises, which are fashioned here in the next month, will help determine who lives in the White House next year. Skip Loescher, CNN, Washington.
The polls just closed in Florida's hard-hit Dade County, and voter turnout for a primary election was understandably light. The rest of the state voted last week. Army tents replaced 65 damaged polling stations. Voters will pick the first Cuban-born man in Congress, and another House race will help decide Florida's first black House member since 1876. Marilyn Quayle toured parts of Louisiana today to survey the hurricane damage. The vice president's wife praised the cleanup operation. She lunched with Red Cross volunteers, and she met with Governor Edwin Edwards. It's primary day in the Virgin Islands, and 7 states from Alaska to New Hampshire. Most have Senate seats at stake. In New Hampshire and Utah, crowded fields are vying to succeed retiring Republicans Warren Rudman and Jake Garn. The only incumbent with a serious opponent in a primary is Senator Robert Caston of Wisconsin. The presidential candidates talked about billions of dollars today. Bill Clinton was in Connecticut, promising to spend $2 billion a year on developing manufacturing jobs. The Democratic nominee proposed a package of incentives for modernizing plants, along with more government spending on product innovation.
What we've got to do is to look at the new world we're living in with new ideas and find out what works. My plan is called, just for lack of a better term, manufacturing for the 21st century. It has a simple goal to turn ideas that work into jobs that work in manufacturing.
President Bush received an award from B'nai B'rith today, and he suggested Bill Clinton would have wavered on the issue of ousting Iraqi troops from Kuwait. The Jewish group's president asked Mr. Bush if he will allow Saudi Arabia to buy fighter jets.
No decision has been made. We have made consultations. I notice, and I don't want to, well, I do want to make this a little bit, put a little political spin on this. My opponent the other day in St. Louis, big headline said that he supported the sale. When you're president, you have to do a lot of consultation on this. I can tell you no final decision has been made. I don't want to misrepresent it. Consideration is being given to this.
A total of 72 F-15 jets worth $5 billion could be sold to the Saudis. The president says whatever his decision, Israel would keep a military edge in terms of quality. An Israeli gunman opened fire on a mental health clinic in Jerusalem today, killing 4 people, wounding 2. Police say the man then climbed onto the rooftop of another building and began shooting at them. The hour-long standoff ended when police shot and killed him after he refused to surrender. The motive behind the shooting is still unclear, but the man was being treated for mental problems, and apparently he was enraged at being denied a truck driver's license. In Bosnia-Herzegovina, a relative lull in the fighting was shattered today when a mortar slammed into a Sarajevo marketplace. Witnesses say 4 people were killed, about 10 were wounded. Heavy fighting also was reported near the airport. Meanwhile, one of the warring factions ambushed a UN relief convoy en route from Belgrade to Sarajevo today. 2 UN peacekeepers were killed, 3 were wounded by heavy machine gun fire. Food and medical supplies are rapidly running out in Sarajevo since the relief flights were suspended last Thursday, and doctors say these 5 premature babies could die overnight unless someone brings bottled oxygen into the besieged city. After more than 5 decades, Russian troops are getting ready to leave Lithuania for good. Today, Boris Yeltsin agreed to immediately withdraw more than 20,000 soldiers from the Baltic state. The still unsigned agreement calls for all troops to be out of Lithuania by next September. In South Africa, African National Congress leaders and the government are examining their options after yesterday's bloodbath in the black homeland of Ciskei. Mike Hanna has the story.
The mourning continues as Nelson Mandela lays a wreath at the site of yesterday's massacre. In the background, South African Defence Force units that have been deployed in the area. A mile away, within earshot of the singing, soldiers of the nominally independent Ciskeian homeland who were directly responsible for the massacre.
What happened was not just the action of a Bantustan leader. There were bigger forces behind this.
The government continues to deny that it was part of this bigger force.
Events of this nature, whoever was responsible, certainly does not make a contribution towards a better South Africa.
But those meeting at the killing ground today argue that the government must be held responsible for the actions of its own apartheid creation.
When we say apartheid is wrong, apartheid is evil, apartheid is immoral, all the things that come as a result of apartheid are equally immoral, equally wrong, equally sinful.
It's a view shared by many in the cities as well. And it's these grassroots followers of the ANC that the government ultimately has to convince of its innocence and good faith.
A new South Africa, that in the wake of the Ciskei massacre, never have the prospects for peace been further away. The mood on the streets is intensely angry, and even if the leaders call for peace, there's a possibility that their supporters may simply not listen. Mike Hanna, ITN, in Johannesburg.
In New Jersey today, the man accused of the fatal kidnapping of Exxon executive Sidney Rizzo pleaded guilty to federal charges of extortion, conspiracy, and fraud. Arthur Seale's plea came just 2 days before his trial. Sentencing is scheduled for November. Rizzo disappeared from his driveway on April 29th. Seale's wife led police to the body in June. On the witness stand, Seale admitted shooting Rizzo, but he called it accidental. He still faces state charges of kidnapping and felony murder. Firefighters are trying to control a wildfire in California's Stanislaus National Forest. Spokeswoman for the U.S. Forest Service says it's quickly spreading through dry timber and has burned more than 3,000 acres now. No major communities are threatened. Authorities believe a discarded cigarette ignited the blaze, which broke out yesterday near Jupiter. Rain in the Midwest is spawning tornadoes. At least 2 touched down in Wisconsin last night. In the small town of Berlin, 80 miles from Milwaukee, A tornado destroyed a garage and ripped the roof off an apartment house. One person was treated for minor injuries. Last month, a tornado killed 2 people and did millions of dollars damage in neighboring Watoma. Researchers say pregnancy for women over 40 is becoming an increasingly viable option if they use a younger woman's egg. A University of Southern California study followed 65 women, 40 or over, who underwent in vitro fertilization. 27 became pregnant and successfully carried the baby to term. It's the same success ratio as women under 40 who used donated eggs. So far, there's little doctors can do to help slow the progress of Alzheimer's disease, but Margaret Lowry reports a woman in Chicago has found a way to bring some sunshine into the patients' lives.
You are my sunshine.
The songs of a long ago youth
Make me happy.
resonate through a veil of age and illness. Although Alzheimer's blurs the outer reaches of the mind, word and melody flow from an otherwise lost inner self.
I think that brings back memories for people of people that they've loved, of good times in their lives, and that's one really positive aspect of music for these folks.
Plug these words into it. We've just written ourselves another song.
Yes, we have no ice cream. We have no turnip greens today.
They call Melanie Chavin the music lady. They don't remember her name. She runs a music therapy program with the help of Jeff Caldwell for Alzheimer's victims at this adult daycare center in Chicago. The aim is not to treat them medically, just provide some pleasure in a life of diminishing return. It is unquestionably successful.
Oh, I enjoy this very much.
I like coming here.
Why?
Because they're good to me.
Chavin has written a book about Alzheimer's and music called The Lost Chord. She says music may linger because it is such a fundamental part of our lives and because it involves both sides of the brain. If one part is destroyed, the music may still be appreciated by another part.
Keep the love light glowing. I love to sing, and I can't carry a tune in a bucket.
I just like to sing.
For the music lady, reward outweighs sorrow.
This is a nice pastime for me. Getting away from the house for one thing.
I prefer being in their presence.
How much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Margaret Lowry, CNN, Chicago.
Very good.
Headline news, while some people in the Lone Star State are eagerly awaiting the free trade agreement.
Looking at Wednesday's weather, rain is expected from Oklahoma to the Great Lakes region and along the Atlantic coast. Clear skies for the rest of the country.
This is CNN Headline News.
For many people, food is an obsession that often results in anxiety, depression, or other emotional problems. It's okay to ask for help. I did. Call Woodridge now.
For more information, call Woodridge now. Treatment is covered by most insurance and Medicare. Woodridge Hospital is located in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Georgia. Transportation is provided. If you or someone you know needs help, call Woodridge now.
At Ford Motor Company, we don't just build quality cars and
Ford
trucks.
Customer Assistance Center, how may I help
We build
you?
relationships. Our Customer Assistance Department assists over 4,000 people a day on everything from warranties to how to program a keyless entry system. It's part of a whole philosophy at Ford that's rapidly changing the ownership experience.
Well, it's important to us that you're happy with your car. Thanks for calling Ford.
Ford Motor Company. Quality is job one. It's working. It's working.
It was the most powerful show on television, earning 99 Emmy nominations and capturing the hearts and minds of a generation. Now Columbia House Video presents MASH, the collector's edition on video cassette. For only $4.95, you'll get 3 hilarious episodes just by calling this toll-free number now. And every episode is complete and unedited. You'll howl at the antics of Hawkeye Pierce. Trapper John McIntyre drives home the laughs. T.J. Honeycutt, what an operator.
Yes, that's the one.
And Colonel Potter, everyone's favorite horse doctor.
Horse hockey.
They're Korea's wackiest medical misfits. See them forming friendships under fire.
Do you hear me? Son of a gun, here's pretty good.
Have your credit card ready and call now. Your first MASH video cassette is only $4.95. Credit card orders only, please. Don't say goodbye to MASH. Bring it home. Call now.
U.S. lawmakers are taking their first look at the North American Free Trade Agreement. Trade Representative Carla Hills opened congressional consideration of it today, testifying before the Senate Finance Committee. Democrats charge the Bush administration rushed the agreement to gain a political advantage in the elections. The plan to link the United States, Canada, and Mexico into a single trade zone was announced the day before the Republican National Convention. Laredo, Texas stands to gain considerably if the free trade agreement is approved. Evidence of that can be seen already, as Tony Clark reports.
Laredo, Texas is by most measures a poor town. 37% of the residents live below the federal poverty level. Yet because of increasing trade between the U.S. and Mexico, its economic future is bright. Unemployment, though still around 10%, is the lowest among major Texas border towns. Retail sales are strong. In July, Walmart opened its largest store in the country here, replacing a smaller store that was already the chain's nationwide sales leader. And across the highway, work is being completed on the second largest Target store in the U.S.
We've seen a boom, and we've attracted larger retailers. And these larger retailers are breaking all kinds of records in their sales.
The reason for the boom is Laredo's location, on the border where Interstate 35 and the Pan American Highway meet, linking U.S. and Mexican industrial cities. As trade restrictions have been reduced, cross-border business has soared. Already more than half of the freight exported from the United States to Mexico passes through Laredo. West of town, a new border crossing complex is under construction in anticipation of even more truck traffic if the free trade agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada is approved. Nearby, billboards promote the development free trade is expected to bring to the area.
It's a great feeling as far as we're concerned.
Yet Chamber Director Miguel Sanchez knows increased trade carries a risk. Local retailers, long dependent on customers coming from Mexico, could suffer as more U.S. products become available in Mexico.
Those that can adapt to the market will definitely survive and flourish. And those that cannot simply will go under.
In fact, free trade may bring some of the biggest changes this 200-year-old community has ever seen. Changes which many here believe will turn Laredo from a town of poverty to one of prosperity. Tony Clark, CNN, Laredo, Texas.
A three-day weekend didn't help stocks on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell for the second straight session, closing down 21 at 3260. 161 million shares almost changed hands. TWA has unveiled a cost-cutting plan to help it emerge from bankruptcy. Beginning October 25th, the airline will discontinue flights to 4 international cities, including Moscow and Stockholm, and 8 American cities, including Austin, Texas, and Syracuse, New York. The airline will add new routes to Boston and Houston from its hub in Atlanta. The plan will eliminate an unspecified number of jobs. TWA has been operating under Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection since January. Action from the U.S. Open coming up. CNN Headline Sports.
This is CNN Headline News.
I was seeing my parents off, and I realized...
Dad, what do you got in here? Gardening equipment?
They've planned their retirement for a long time.
Common sense says the time to plan for your future is today.
One day, it's going to be our turn.
And Fidelity Investments, America's largest mutual fund company, can help you begin.
Debbie?
One day, Jeff sat down to figure out how much we'll have for retirement.
How's it going, Einstein?
Very funny. Take a look at
I thought we were doing a pretty good job. At this rate, we'll never retire.
Over 2 million Americans trust their retirement savings to Fidelity with choices like Magellan Fund. Magellan's approach to stock investing has made it the #1 performing mutual fund for the past 15-year period. So call Fidelity now for this free booklet, A Common Sense Guide to Planning for Retirement. You'll also receive everything you need to take your first step. Call 1-800-348-2900. Fidelity Investments. Common sense. Uncommon results.
Introducing new Lemon Fresh Spray and Wash. At last, the proven stain-removing power of spray and wash with the freshness of real lemon. For a whole new way to get out what America gets into.
Oh, great. Just what my stomach needs. Here comes my obnoxious boss.
Hi, Daddy.
Oh, boy.
Better make it Malox, because Extra Strength Malox Plus neutralizes more acid than Mylanta. So you better make it Malox.
You're kidding me.
These people just found out they're the newest winners in the Publishers Clearinghouse Sweepstakes.
My heart is beating a mile a minute.
You could be our new $10 million winner if you enter our new sweepstakes fast.
He laughs at me. I send them in.
Nice to
He's
meet
not
you,
laughing now.
Bob Casella, CNN Headline Sports. Defending champ Stefan Edberg took on Dutchman Richard Krajicek today, 4th round of the U.S. Open, and Krajicek was on his game. He gave Edberg his best shot, literally. Krajicek won the 2nd set and then won the 4th set to square the match and actually was up a break in the 5th set, but Edberg came alive, rallied back, and out-hustled Krajicek to win the 5th set 6-4 and take the match. Edberg is into the quarterfinals. Elsewhere, South African Wayne Ferreira continued his solid play. He is into the quarters. It will be Boris Becker against Ivan Lendl, who is trying to end his dry spell against the hard-serving German. Lendl 0-5 against Becker in majors. And coming up tonight, Michael Chang against fellow American Mal Washington. Women's side today, quarterfinals. As expected, top seed Monica Seles is into the semifinals. In the far court, she came to the net and disposed of Patricia Hees 6-1 and 6-2. Next up for Seles is not Gabriela Sabatini, as many expected, but instead Mary Jo Fernandez, who hustled past the former champ 6-2, 1-6, and then 6-4 to wrap it up. Major League Baseball owners will start 2 days of meetings tomorrow in St. Louis, and according to White Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf, a new commissioner will be named and not necessarily an interim commissioner. Among the early favorites to get the job, the 2 league presidents, American League boss Dr. Bobby Brown and outgoing National League President Bill White, also being mentioned, at least on an interim basis, former AL President Lee McPhail. A couple of late afternoon starts in the majors. National League, the West leading Braves winning. Terry Pendleton, a 2-run homer. American League, Tigers and Sox in a twin bill. Jack McDowell trying to win his 20th. Bob Casella, CNN Headline Sports.
This is CNN Headline News.
Boy, this couch weighs a ton. Where does it go, Miss Lansbury?
Oh, right there, please. Wow. If I lifted that, I'd need Bufferin for the aches and pains afterwards.
You really believe in Bufferin?
I certainly do.
It's strong, huh?
Extra strength Bufferin has the strongest dosage of aspirin that you can buy. And I've discovered that the buffers don't weaken it. They just help prevent aspirin stomach upset.
Shouldn't you discover the strength of Bufferin? And for nighttime aches, pains, and sleeplessness, try Bufferin AF Nighttime. It's aspirin-free.
Before Buyers Lab recommends a copier, they make copies. And after making over 1 million of them, Buyers Lab has recommended every single Meta copier they've ever tested. And that's a record no other major brand of copiers can duplicate. Call 1-800-ABC-META.
This is a News Center 13 update.
I'm Courtney Maxwell. In news this hour, our top story, a chemical leak in Des Moines. About 7:45 this morning, a 1,000-gallon tank of sulfur dioxide started leaking after it fell off a flatbed truck. The leak occurred on the city's southeast side along Vandalia Road. The hazardous materials team contained the leak, but several businesses were evacuated as a precaution. No injuries reported at this time. News Center 13's Mary Mills talked to some witnesses.
Getting out of the van, I seen a truck come around, roll around, and tank come off on it, and he was trying to stop everybody. The gas started coming out of the tank, and he's running around, you know, with his head cut off, trying to get him not to go through the gas.
Basically, it's a corrosive gas. If you inhale this particular gas, it forms a corrosive solution in your respiratory tract and is corrosive to your respiratory tract.
Mary will have more on this story coming up tonight at 5. In other news, Des Moines police arrived within minutes of a call to the 1100 block of 17th Street last night, but the emergency was over when they reached the scene. 2 people were dead, the victims of an apparent murder-suicide. Police say 38-year-old Ricky Titsworth was separated from his wife, 40-year-old Candace Titsworth. She had brought her 10-year-old son with her last night to talk to her husband. Ricky sent the child outside to play about 7:30, and that's when Candace was shot. Mr. Titsworth called 911 to notify police, then apparently turned the gun on himself. The Chickasaw County Sheriff's Department is looking for the man they say shot a convenience store clerk to death during a robbery attempt. 22-year-old Rhonda Knutson was inside the Williamstown store near Hampton yesterday. Police aren't sure if she resisted the robbery attempt or was shot in cold blood. Sheriff's officers are looking for a semi-tractor truck pulling white or silver trailer. The driver is described as a heavy-set white male, 35 to 40 years old, with a dark beard and hair. If you've seen this man, call the Chickasaw County Sheriff's Department. Jury selection underway today in Dario Ruesga's trial on child endangerment charges. Ruesga is accused in the near-fatal beating of 4-year-old Jonathan Waller. Waller was hospitalized for months and suffered permanent brain damage in the beating. Ruesga's trial is being held in Davenport because of pre-trial publicity here in central Iowa. Opening arguments could begin this afternoon. The murder of Tammy Zawicki raises a lot of questions about the safety of our highways. Tonight at 10, News Center 13's Jim Strickland begins a series of reports exploring that topic. He'll show us how long it takes to get help on the highway and how you can get help quicker if you need it. That's Are the Highway Safe, beginning tonight at 10. Now a check on your forecast with Ed Wilson after this.
What makes News Center 13 Iowa's fastest growing newscast? We give you the most local news, period. The only hour-long morning newscast. The only local station offering live updates every hour on the hour. The only local station to offer news at 5, 6, and 10. News Center 13. Nobody gives you more local news, period.
Thank you for switching to News Center 13.
Iowa's fastest growing newscast.
Well, we had clear skies last night, and the cool air moved in right over that high pressure, right behind that cold front that moved through central sections of the state of Iowa yesterday, giving us a rather rainy start to our Labor Day week. But the shower and thunderstorm activity is out of the area for now. The high pressure will hold on. Much cooler temperatures, though, ushered in with that high pressure. You'll see the jet stream dropping down over the state of Iowa, back into Nebraska, all the way back to the northwest, where it's still very dry out there. We're going to see dry conditions for today, but some shower activity moving in by tomorrow afternoon. Today's forecast looks like this. The sunny skies will be with us, 71 degrees for a high. That northwesterly wind will turn around to the southwest at 4 to 12 miles per hour. A very, very mild day, a nice day to get outside, do whatever you might need to do for the fall cleanup in the yard. That'd be a good idea. Mostly clear skies for tonight again. 54, a cooler or a warmer overnight low. Last night it was 45 degrees. Chance of rain out to the west of Des Moines. And then for tomorrow, scattered showers throughout the state. The clouds will be with us, 78 degrees. A northwesterly wind again as another front moves through, 6 to 18 mile per hour northwesterly wind for tomorrow. Extended forecast looks like this. Drying up again on Thursday and Friday. Cool temperatures, 69 for the high there. Warmer by Saturday with another chance of showers. Now back to CNN.